There is a building in the middle of the infected zone that should not exist, not because someone tore it down. Not because the sludge destroyed it. It should not exist because the sludge has consumed everything around it. The land, the buildings, the roads, everything for miles in every direction has been claimed by the corruption spreading outward from the sludge god's anchor point, and this one building is still standing. Still occupied St. Godard's church. And the more you think about why that church is still there, why the sludge that has claimed everything else in that region hasn't claimed it, who is inside it, and why they're there, and what the name Church of the Damned actually means, the more this location stops being a mission in a zombie game and starts being one of the most fascinating pieces of lore in this entire story. So let's talk about it properly, because this place deserves more attention than most people give it. When the Commandos first arrive at St. Godard's church, they're there for one reason. Leon needs reactant fuel, more pieces for Project Godkiller, another supply run into the infected zone to grab something he can't get any other way. The fuel is near the church, so that's where they go. Simple job. They get in, grab the fuel, get out. Except when they get there, the church isn't abandoned. There are survivors inside, a small group of people who have been holding on in this building while everything around them got consumed by the sludge. Weeks of holding on, maybe months in the middle of an infected zone that has swallowed entire towns and industrial facilities and left nothing recognizable behind. These people are still alive, led by a woman named Gallagher. Now, if you've been watching this series from the beginning, that name should make you stop. Leon Dorsey's fixer, the person he hired to manage the cover-up when the outbreak first happened. The person sent into the infected zone to quietly clean up the disaster before the world found out what the Obsidian Group had done. The person tasked with making the whole thing disappear before it became a global story. That person was also named Gallagher. The game never directly confirms whether these are the same person. It leaves that question deliberately open, but think about what we know and follow it through. Leon sends his fixer into the infected zone during the early days of the cover-up. The cover-up fails. The containment teams get infected. The sludge keeps spreading, the wall goes up, and suddenly the fixer, whatever she was doing inside the zone, cannot get out. So she does what you do when you're trapped inside a nightmare with no way out. She finds somewhere to hold on, and not just any building. A specific building, St. Godard's Church, in a region full of structures that the sludge has been working through since October 29, 2033. She chose this one specifically, which means she knew what it was, which means whatever information Leon's operation had gathered about the infected zone included something about this church and why it was worth fighting to keep. If Gallagher, the fixer, and Gallagher, the survivor, are the same person, and I genuinely believe they are, then her being at St. Godard's is not an accident. She chose this place on purpose, found it, held it, kept survivors alive inside it because she understood what the church actually is, and that raises the real question this location is sitting on. What is St. Godard's Church actually built to do? Because here's what the game shows you without ever fully explaining. The church is fighting back against the sludge, not just sitting in a corner of the infected zone that the corruption hasn't gotten to yet. Actively fighting back. The sludge nodes that the Commandos have to destroy during the mission are not random corruption structures scattered around the area. They are growing toward the church, pushing against it, working at it from multiple directions at the same time, trying to take it the way the sludge has taken everything else in this part of the infected zone. The sludge has been working on this building for months, and the church is still standing. That is not luck. That is not good building materials or being in the right spot on the map. Something about this location is refusing to go down to the corruption in a way that nothing else in the infected zone manages. The sludge god has been pushing at this one building over and over, and the building keeps pushing back. So the question is why? And the answer, when you think about everything we know about the history of this region, is probably a lot older than the Obsidian Group. Think about where churches get built. Not randomly, not wherever someone happened to have spare land. Churches get built in specific places for specific reasons. Sometimes those reasons are practical. A town center, a place people were already coming to, a spot that made sense for a community to gather. Sometimes the reasons are something else entirely. In the cultist video, we talked about how the sludge god was never completely dormant, even while it slept beneath the earth, how it leaked into the dreams of people living in this region for generations, how those experiences over hundreds of years shaped a belief system, a group of people who dedicated their lives to understanding what was sleeping beneath the earth and keeping everyone else away from it. Now imagine you're part of that group. You have spent your whole life feeling something ancient pressing into your head every time you close your eyes. You have been told by your parents and their parents before them about what is buried beneath this region and why it needs to stay buried, and you want to build something permanent here. Something physical, something that can stand in the ground above whatever is sleeping beneath it and give the people protecting the world from it somewhere solid to work from. Where do you build it? Right here, in the middle of the region where the sludge god's presence is the strongest, not to get away from it but to stand against it. To put something in the ground and say clearly that this place belongs to something other than the darkness underneath it. See, Godard's church was probably not built because someone wanted a church in this part of the world. It was probably built specifically to be a place that could hold, built by people who knew, through generations of living alongside whatever was sleeping beneath the earth, that the day might come when it woke up. The D. And when that day came, they wanted somewhere ready for it. The sludge nodes pushing against the walls of the church during the mission are not just a gameplay mechanic. They are the sludge god trying to take back ground that people have been actively defending against it for longer than any of the current characters have been alive. The church was built to resist this, and it is still doing exactly what it was built to do. Now there's something about how the mission is set up that tells you more about the church's history than you might catch the first time through. The fuel the Commandos need is nearby, but getting to it means clearing a path through an area that has been really heavily hit by the corruption. The church itself sits within the defended area around it. The people inside have not just been hiding and hoping for the best. They have been managing the situation, keeping certain areas clear, making decisions about what ground they can hold and what they have to let the sludge take. This is an organized group, a group that has been running things, not people who stumbled into a church and got lucky. People who have been running a proper setup inside the infected zone for a long time, and the generator, the power system, the Commandos have to get working again to expose the sludge node weak points. Someone set that up. Someone put power systems in and around the church specifically to support being there long term in a place that is actively trying to kill you. This was planned for the people at St. Godard's church. Whoever they are and wherever they came from did not end up here by accident. They came with equipment, with knowledge of the place, with an understanding of what they would need to stay alive inside the infected zone for a long stretch of time. That kind of planning points back to either the cultists who spent generations building their knowledge of this region, or to Leon's operation which spent months figuring out the infected zone before ever sending the Commandos in, or honestly, probably both. Now, I want to talk about the name, because it has been sitting in my head since the first time I noticed it. Church of the Damned, not Church of the Survivors, not St. Godard's safe house. Not anything that reflects what the place has actually become in the context of the game's story. Church of the Damned. Damned is a really heavy word. In a religious sense, it is about as serious as language gets. It means claimed by darkness, past saving, connected to something evil in a way that cannot just be undone. You do not throw that word onto a location without meaning something by it. So what does it mean here? Is it the building itself that is damned, a church built right on top of the ground where an ancient entity has been pressing upward through the dreams of everyone who ever lived nearby? Is it the Homo Mortis pressing against the gates? The former people of this region turn into soldiers for the very thing that the people who built this church spent their whole lives trying to stop. Is it the survivors, people living inside a quarantine zone in a church that was built for exactly this kind of worst case scenario, now actually living through it? Or is it the cultists themselves, people who built their whole lives around protecting everyone else from something they could feel but could never fully prove? Who walked up to Leon Dorsey and warned him directly and got ignored like they were nothing, who were living in this region when the sludge erupted and got hit first and hardest, precisely because they were closest to the thing they had spent generations trying to keep contained. The people who were most right about everything ended up most directly in the path of everything. Damned not by making bad choices, not by corruption or weakness or giving up. Damned by knowing, by being the ones who understood what was coming and still could not stop it. That is a genuinely sad way to read this location, and I do not think the game called it the Church of the Damned by accident. It is asking you to think about who exactly the damned are in this story. And the answer is more complicated and more human than just pointing at the zombies outside the gate. There is one more thing about this location that pays off right at the end of the game, by the time the Commandos are getting ready for the final push against the Sludge God. Gallagher is still at the church, still there, still holding things together for her survivor. And the game makes helping her get out a priority before the final mission can start, not optional, not a side thing to do if you feel like it. An actual story beat where the Commandos stop in the middle of everything with everything on the line and make sure Gallagher and her survivor get out of the infected zone safely before the endgame kicks off. Think about what that says about how much the story cares about this character. With everything at stake, with the Sludge God waiting, with Project Godkiller ready to go, the story still says that getting Gallagher out matters enough to stop and do it first. And if she is the same Gallagher that Leon sent into the infected zone during the cover-up, that moment hits in a way the game never says out loud, but absolutely wants you to feel. Leon sent her in. His decision, his cover-up, his plan that she went into and could not get back out of. The Commandos get her out. The same 4 mercenaries that Leon dragged into this whole thing, the same way he dragged her in. The same people who never asked for any of this and ended up carrying the weight of his decisions anyway. They are the ones who make sure she makes it out. Leon caused the problem, the Commandos fixed it. That is honestly the whole story of Toxic Commando in a single mission beat, and it plays out right here at the Church of the Damned. The location that has been quietly holding on in the middle of the infected zone since the very beginning of the game, just waiting for someone to stop and really look at what it actually is. That is St. Godard's Church, the building that should not still be standing, the survivors who should not still be alive, the name that carries way more weight than it first seems, the woman inside whose story connects directly back to the man who caused everything, and the history underneath all of it that goes back way before Leon Dorsey ever pointed a drill at the ground. The infected zone is full of places that used to be something before the sludge got there. Most of them are just part of the landscape, now just territory that belongs to the Sludge God. St. Godard's Church is different. It is a place that is still fighting, still standing on ground it has been defending for longer than anyone inside the wall fully understands, still full of people who chose to be there rather than anywhere else. Whatever the church was built to do, it is still doing it. And somewhere inside those walls, Gallagher and her survivors are holding the door against everything the infected zone keeps sending at them. Next map, we keep going deeper into the infected zone. The stories get darker the further in we go, and the next location has details that connect directly back to some of the most disturbing lore in this whole game. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and drop a comment. Do you think Gallagher the survivor is the same person Leon sent into the infected zone during the cover-up? Because the more I think about it, the more I cannot see how she could be anyone else. Tell me if you agree.